Hi, everyone. I wanted to come on today again to share a little bit about the current affairs that are occurring in China. And, is Shanghai opening up? Is what you're reading in the media actually occurring? So, to start off a little bit on what is happening in China, let's probably give you a bit of data in terms of how April looked. Shanghai's COVID lockdowns have hammered the economy of the city based on certain key indicators of business and industrial activity. The April industrial output in Shanghai plummeted by 61.6%. The total retail value of consumer goods sold in Shanghai plunged 48.3% in April. So it's just to show that things aren't great. And I'm getting these statistics from the Shanghai Statistics Authority. So again, I'm hoping that they're as accurate as they can be. What are we actually seeing on the ground? And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not on the ground. I'm hearing this from my staff who live in different districts throughout China. So the consensus is pretty similar in that Shanghai is removing metal barriers around the city, which used to seal off streets and compound entrances. But not all districts are being released. Not all communities are being released. This morning I had a team call and one of my staff is still locked in with no news of when she's actually going to be coming out. For her, it's really tough because from the windows, she can see people in the streets and actually her neighboring community is opened up. And it's a pity because she has a child, and obviously the issue is that the children are also stuck at home and can't go out. Whereas some friends are able to leave, and you can see their WeChat posts or their social media feeds, and it just gets disappointing. Supposedly, public transportation was going to start yesterday with 4 of the city's 20 subway lines and about 273 bus routes. Basically covering all of the major districts, airports, train stations, and hospitals. I haven't actually heard any news whatsoever about whether that's actually materialized, so I don't really want to say anything. It was supposed to have opened up yesterday. It wasn't a topic of conversation in our team meeting today, but that is what was supposed to happen. So I can't really instruct what the reality is. So I will be curious to see in the next week whether that is actually materializing, whether the subway lines are opening up, the bus route lines are opening up. And, it's great to connect to people on Instagram or even on LinkedIn to see what they're showing, because that's also how I'm getting my information about the reality of what's happening on the ground. What else can I say? I'm just going through my notes right now. Apologies. So, basically there's a mixed bag of people who are being released, those that are still working from home. From a business perspective, I think SMEs are really suffering the most. They are facing truly the difficulties of opening up again. Only a small number of SMEs have resumed operation, but most of them don't meet pandemic prevention requirements, so they cannot actually open up. The SME resumption rate, which includes both offline and online activities, is 65% lower than that of larger corporations. And I'm getting this data from the Shanghai Commission of Economy and Informatization. Catering, entertainment, logistics are those that are amongst the hardest hit right now in Shanghai. Through to the end of May, reopened companies are required to operate under a closed loop or half closed loop system. What does this mean? It means that actually the workers are required. When I say workers, you would think production staff, but I'm also talking about office administration staff are required to sleep on site. So that means they have to leave their homes, they have to leave their families, and then once they get to their office site, they are stuck there until the full reopening occurs. Which is probably why a lot of SMEs are unable to actually resume their operations because nobody really wants to work from the office, or nobody is really interested in working from a production site or whatnot. And then also don't forget the family logistics of everything, if you have children, if you have babies, etc. In areas where there's no COVID cases, eligible companies are allowed to provide shuttle services for employees to commute between work and home. What I can see as a dilemma there, and I know this just from a little bit of experience with some of my employees, is that communities and the head of the communities are very strict about allowing people to re-enter again. So you probably need appropriate licenses and certificates to show to allow you to get back into your community. Shanghai reported 671 new cases and 1 death last Wednesday, and this is all down from 16%. So, I mean, look, the numbers are showing. Again, with numbers and stats, I'm always a little bit wary. I always take it with a grain of salt. But this is what is being reported currently by the authorities. Now, China appears to be gradually easing its lockdown of Shanghai, but it's just to highlight that that won't bring immediate relief to the global supply chain congestion. Just to share a funny story, I was watching an Instagram post by a Western gentleman who has a Chinese wife and a Chinese mother-in-law. They all live in the same apartment. And the mother-in-law had actually ordered fresh fish 1 week prior to the lockdown started in Shanghai. And currently the postal services, the Kuaidi services, are now in operation and are trying to release the backlog of stock that is in the warehouses. So in those communities that are more open, you can actually pick up your last Kuaidi deliveries and whatnot. They have special ways of delivering that into the communities. And this fresh fish arrived now close to 60, 70 days later, and you can just imagine what happened in that scenario. So that is positive news that the Kuaidis are trying to release the influx, but it's just to highlight that these Kuaidi workers, they're sleeping at these warehouses. They're not going home. They're trying to ease the operations that are in China, and unfortunately they're not getting the recognition that they should be getting. So the positive there is that from a local delivery service perspective, things are opening up, particularly to the communities where there are 0 COVID cases. Shanghai, there are shortages of rail, port, and trucking workers in China. And obviously the issue there is that, again, you need to work in a looped community, meaning the workers have to work on site and many don't. So, the Shanghai government is obviously doing their best to address this issue, but labor shortages are existing. Infrastructure shortages are still existing. So really, until the true opening up of Shanghai will occur, who knows? Talking to one of my staff this morning, they're really hoping that by Children's Day, which is June 1st, it's going to be that they can leave their homes and visit people. But what that means from a business perspective, in terms of people being able to go into office buildings, commercial buildings, how the logistics is going to work from that perspective, what are the rules and regulations to take public transportation, that's still all unknown. So stay tuned. I'm going to try and bring you updates every Monday and Friday to tell you what's occurring, and also to give you feedback from my team in terms of what's happening. And again, this is probably a little bit biased because I'm just reporting from my team and a little bit about what I'm reading and what I'm seeing on the various social media sites. But I hope it gives you at least some insight. And if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And remember, if you are thinking about going into the Chinese market, probably right now is not the key time, but that doesn't mean you can't prepare. Preparation is key to success. Do your homework. Use this time to do your homework, to do your market research, to get the data, to understand what business models you can create in China and how you can actually get into China when that green light hits and China is raring to go. So again, any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day. Take care and goodbye.